Welcome to The Explainer. If you're gearing up for the UPSC, state PCS, or honestly any major competitive exam, you already know that environmental legislation and wetland conservation are absolute gold mines for high-yield questions. Today, we are going to completely master them. We're going to break down those complex timelines, the crucial constitutional articles, and the absolute latest 2026 updates to India's Ramsar sites. We've got a seriously packed syllabus today. We're going to hit 5 key areas: constitutional environmental mandates, landmark environmental legislation dates, the EPA and NGT, India's Ramsar site network, and finally, key Ramsar state statistics. Let's get to it.
Starting right off with Section 1, Constitutional Environmental Mandates.
You know, it's kind of wild to think about, but initially, our Constitution didn't even have explicit provisions for environmental protection. That all shifted after the 1972 UN Conference in Stockholm. The real turning point here is the 42nd Amendment Act in 1976. This was massive. It gave both the central government and us citizens new powers and duties to protect the country from land, water, and air pollution. And here's the kicker for your exams. This amendment specifically moved forests and the protection of wild animals and birds straight from the state list to the concurrent list. That meant the central government could finally step in and drive nationwide conservation.
Okay, pay super close attention here because this is a classic examiner trap. Article 48A versus Article 51AG. They love to swap these two. Just remember, 48A falls under the directive principles, so it directs the state to protect forests and wildlife. But 51AG? That is a fundamental duty placed squarely on our shoulders. It makes it the literal duty of every single citizen to protect the natural environment and have compassion for living creatures. Keep who's responsible for what's straight, and you'll easily dodge that trick question.
Moving on to Section 2, Landmark Environmental Legislation Dates. So how did those constitutional mandates turn into actual statutory law? Well, this chronological timeline is the absolute backbone of India's environmental jurisprudence. You absolutely must commit this exact sequence to memory, because you're going to see questions asking you to arrange these 4 foundational acts in order. It kicks off with the Wildlife Protection Act in 1972. Then, we target specific pollution with the Water Act in 1974, followed by the Air Act in 1981. Finally, bringing it all together under one massive umbrella, we get the Environment Protection Act in 1986. That's Wildlife, Water, Air, Environment. 72, 74, 81, 86. Lock that in.
Now drilling down into the Wildlife Protection Act, which by the way extends to the whole of India and regulates hunting, trade, and protected areas, you absolutely need to know the recent 2021-2022 amendment. This is highly testable. They rationalized the protected schedules, slashing them down from 6 to just 4. Schedule 1 is still your highest level protection, but importantly, Schedule 4 is now totally dedicated to species listed under CITES, the Conventional and International Trade in Endangered Species. Oh, and they also brought in a brand new Section 62A, which gives the central government the power to strictly regulate invasive alien species.
And here's a look at the actual official Gazette notification for that 2022 amendment. It really helps to visualize the actual document. It's a great reminder that this isn't just dry theory. This is the active, current law of the land we're dealing with across the country.
All right, Section 3, the EPA and NGT.
So, after the horrific Bhopal gas tragedy in 1984, it became crystal clear that piecemeal laws just weren't cutting it anymore. Enter the Environment Protection Act in 1986. Think of the EPA as an umbrella legislation. It provides a centralized, powerful authority to set nationwide standards for things like emissions and hazardous waste. It empowers the central government to regulate industrial locations and establish critical safeguards. It's really the cornerstone of our whole environmental framework.
And to actually enforce all this, the National Green Tribunal, or NGT, was set up in 2010. Why? For speedy justice. Regular courts were way too backlogged, so the NGT got a super strict objective: dispose of appeals within 6 months. What's absolutely vital for your notes is that the NGT is guided by natural justice. It's not tied down by the strict rules of the Code of Civil Procedure. Its orders are totally binding, enforceable just like a civil court decree. And if you need to challenge an NGT decision, you have exactly 90 days to take your appeal directly to the Supreme Court.
Okay, red alert on this one. This is a massive examiner trap. Does the NGT have jurisdiction over the Wildlife Protection Act of 1972? No, it absolutely does not. The NGT handles cases related to the Water Act, the Air Act, the EPA, but the Wildlife Protection Act is explicitly excluded. Do not let them trick you on this. Burn this into your memory.
Next up, Section 4, India's Ramsar Site Network.
Let's shift gears a bit into geography and ecology. As of May 2026, India boasts exactly 99 Ramsar sites. 99. That is an absolutely essential number for your current affairs prep. The network has just exploded recently, showing a massive commitment to wetland conservation.
To put that into perspective globally, India now ranks third overall for its number of sites, sitting just behind the UK and Mexico. Now for the basics. The original treaty was signed way back on February 2, 1971, in Ramsar, Iran, which, by the way, is exactly why we celebrate World Wetlands Day every February 2nd. It entered into force here in India on February 1, 1982, and today those 99 sites cover a staggering 13.85 lakh hectares of vital ecological habitat across the country. When it comes to state-specific questions, Tamil Nadu is the undisputed heavyweight champion with 20 sites. Uttar Pradesh is sitting comfortably in second with 12. And then there's a pretty big drop-off to third place, which is a three-way tie between Punjab, Odisha, and Bihar, with 6 sites each. Just a quick side note, states like Telangana, Arunachal Pradesh, Meghalaya, and Nagaland currently do not have a single designated Ramsar site yet.
And finally, Section 5, Key Ramsar Site Statistics.
Let's bring this home with some absolute highest yield trivia. This is pure gold for those match the following questions on exam day. You need to know the extremes. India's very first and therefore oldest sites, designated together in 1981, are Chilka Lake in Odisha and Kailadeo National Park in Rajasthan. Size-wise, the absolute largest is the massive Sundarban wetland over in West Bengal. And the smallest? That title goes to the tiny Renuka Lake in Himachal Pradesh. Free marks right there.
You know, examiners are obsessed with recent current affairs, so memorize the 99th site right now, Shika Jheel Bird Sanctuary in UP, added in April 2026. Right before that, in January 2026, we saw Patna Bird Sanctuary, also in UP, and Chari Dand in Gujarat get added. Also keep in mind that 2025 was a massive year with 11 total additions. It was actually the year states like Chhattisgarh, Sikkim, and Jharkhand finally got their very first Ramsar designations.
Almost done, but we cannot forget the Montrex record. Basically, this is the Ramsar danger list for wetlands facing severe ecological threats or human interference. Now, being on this list doesn't kick a site out of the Ramsar network, it just prioritizes it for urgent conservation. Currently, India has 2 sites on this record, Loktak Lake in Manipur and Kailadeo National Park in Rajasthan. But there's a great success story here too. Chilka Lake in Odisha was on the record, but after an amazing restoration effort, it was officially removed in 2002.
So to really master this material, you've got to connect all the dots. Imagine a controversial infrastructure project suddenly threatens that newly designated Shika Jheel. How would you legally defend it? Could you, as a citizen, invoke your fundamental duty under Article 51 AG? Could you file a petition using the umbrella powers of the EPA of 1986 and take the whole thing straight to the NGT for a guaranteed 6-month resolution? That is the exact level of critical synthesis that separates the top-tier candidates from everyone else. Review these connections, test yourself, and you are going to crush this section. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep studying smart, and I'll catch you in the next one.